What is up, friends? This is Trip, and it it's time to nerd out
Oh boy.
with your geek out because it's a theology nerd throwdown.
Welcome to the throwdown.
Oh yeah,
You know, our name is tripartite, and some days the emphasis is really on the theology. It's very theology heavy, and then there are other days where it's nerdy. And but today we're gonna earn the name Throwdown.
ooh, ooh. Okay, uh, there you go, Bo. Um, so, uh, you know what? You know what I was
Oh
doing
no,
last week?
I can't. I don't know what you were doing last week. I didn't hear from you. I know that.
I Josh Gilbert, the
Hmm.
podcast producer, and I went on a little road trip.
You did.
He flew down to North Carolina, and
Ah.
we drove up to the New England Cigar Expo. So on the way up there, we stopped with Josh Patterson, who's
No.
normal in our chat, the Rethinking Faith podcast, and hung out. And then we went to the New England Cigar Expo. It's basically Theology Beer Camp for cigars.
Where was it held?
Windham, New Hampshire.
Oh, I love New Hampshire. I used to have access. So Sunapee in New Hampshire, there was a family cabin, and when they would close it in the fall, because it was a 3-season cabin, they said I could just go over there for retreats or whatever I needed. So I would go over actually to New Hampshire in the late fall and winter and have a cabin entirely to myself. Now there was no running water or heat, but I'm good at roughing it, and I loved it. And I would go to these used bookstores, and then I would find interesting things, and then I would read, and just spend my day in reflection. It was wonderful. I loved New Hampshire. I saw my first bull moose in New Hampshire.
Ooh.
He was about 6 feet from my car. He just I was driving on a back road, and he just emerged out of the woods, took a right turn, and paralleled my car. He was jogging down the road next to my car for probably 100 yards, and then he took another right turn and disappeared back into the woods.
You're glad he took a right turn.
Listen, I have never seen. Essentially it's a cow on stilts.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like the Big Show of the mammal world. It was incredible.
Dude, when we were in up at OrtCon, not last summer, the summer before that.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and
Here in
uh,
Idaho, Wyoming, right?
yeah, in your area, a moose just decided to sit in the road, and it's like the only road up and down the mountain. And
Oh
uh,
no.
our kids were riding with friends to go in to get like ice cream in the little town near the whatever, something like this. Everything just stops. Like there's not a nobody in that area is on the I'm going to go get the moose to move list.
Yeah.
Like
No.
there's just a line of cars, and they're like texting back up. Well, we're going to be back a little later. A moose is just sitting in the road. Um, yeah, like if you're in North Carolina, a lot of people have car wrecks with deer.
Yep.
A deer is like a moose thigh.
Yeah, that's true. It's tiny
Yeah.
comparatively. Hey, I've told this story before, but it is one of my favorite stories. In 2007, I decided I was going to leave Saratoga, New York, in upstate New York, and move across the country to go to a seminary in Portland. And I went down to the Brick and Mortar Borders bookstore. Speaking of brick and mortar, by the way, are you at the? It looks like you're at the Laugh Factory or doing stand up at the Improv. Where are you right now?
No, the sun was really bright, so I'm the same table I'm
Okay,
normally at, just a
okay.
different direction.
It looks great, man.
You see,
Oh my gosh.
like
Oh,
there's
you
the
are okay. You're outside. It looks like you're
you
in
see the
a
chickens.
basement comedy shop.
Yeah, I guess maybe that'll help me get more laughs out of you. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll
Wow.
see.
So anyway, I go to brick and mortar bookstore Borders, and I buy a book called "How to Stay Alive in the Western Wilderness" or something, and because I knew I would be spending the summer in Montana, reading ahead of time, getting ready to go to seminary because I was very nervous in my 30s going to seminary that I was going to be left out. I was going to be caught out, not knowing because I graduated college and I went right into the ministry and I was there for almost 12 years and I was like, I got to get up to speed. So I spent the summer in Montana. I bought this book. There were several things in the book that were hilarious. Like for instance, the section on bears is huge, like how to if you encounter a bear. But the section on mountain lions is one sentence. It says, if you see a mountain lion, he's been watching you for a while, prepare to fight. And I turned the page thinking, what's the rest of the explanation? And that was it. That was the entire explanation. But anyway, there was a section on moose and everything. Okay, wolves, all everything. So one morning I have insomnia and I go for a pre-dawn hike and I stumble upon a moose belly deep in this pond. And because I was a young man back then, so this is almost 20 years ago, I decide I'm going to follow the moose. And I just had this impulse to see how close I could get. And the closer I got to the moose, I started thinking, I wonder if I could touch a moose. And I
Bo,
got
Bo, this is not.
so I get within about 12, 15 feet, and she turns around, it's a very cold morning, and she blows air out her nostrils and just looks at me. And I suddenly remember that in this book, How to Stay Alive in the Western Woods, it says, beware, moose are the only member of the deer family that will charge you. And I instantly realized I had gotten way too close and I backed the heck up. So that was my closest encounter with a moose until New Hampshire.
Oh, uh, yeah. Yeah, I think I would try to avoid close encounters. Animals that could squish you or ones that have you in the food chain. Those are the ones I try to avoid.
Yeah, good point.
The so one of the things um at the Cigar Expo,
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you about all of it, Bo. Other than I'm going to try to talk you into going with me. It it was everything. And I have a
I'm not.
story to tell you that
All
I
right.
can't be on the internet because I
Okay.
couldn't come up with a nice way of simultaneously imitating
Yeah.
the character
Yeah.
and
Okay.
using the language he used in a way that's good for the internet.
Yeah. I can understand.
But it's let's just say New Hampshire has its own rednecks, and
Oh, yeah. They're different. New England rednecks are a little different.
yeah, and with like a South Boston accent, and I just couldn't control myself.
Oh boy.
I'm anyway, but they had night fights like knights, Knight. Think MMA, but with they have
What?
armor on and like metal weapons, and they don't like everything else is like MMA, and they just beat each other up with these weapons. It was so loud, like the metal hitting,
I
and there's like multiple bouts. It's like a league. The guy that runs it has like the TV
How
show on the
interesting.
I don't remember which, History Channel on like Knights and Warfare
Yeah.
show, and he does lots of movies when they have those kind of things, and it was crazy. And then they had comedians doing play by play. Like 2 years ago, they had small people wrestlers,
Okay.
though that is not what the wrestlers call themselves. You know
Yes,
what I
it's
mean?
true. Yeah.
And like Bill Burr did play by play
Oh boy.
for the thing. So like this time Tony V and this other guy who is like a retired NHL ref who has all the mouth that you think someone that argued with NHL players, and then Tony V, the comedian, are doing play by play for nights fighting in a tent with 500 people smoking cigars. Uh, and had beer tents all day. It was like the combination of this is a sport, people
Oh,
watching, and the comedy. Uh, it was literally one of the craziest things I've seen. Um, I don't even know. And at
that's
the end, there was a straight like everyone for themselves battle royale, and I like
this
yeah,
sounds wild.
yeah, yeah. I'm gonna text you a video of some of them
Okay.
just so you like. I could. It's hard to exaggerate, and it's so loud. And at one point, this dude straight headbutts another dude, and they have metal things on.
Oh
Like,
my.
if you were uncomfortable, you know how you played football for a long
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Okay, so at a certain point, like just all the humans that are playing football are all people you don't want to interact with in a physical way. If you're a
Right.
normie,
Right.
like everybody's got a large body,
Yeah.
and whatever size it is, the muscle ratio is significant. And if you're still playing when you're tackling adult humans
Yeah.
at high speeds, you got enough of that crazy to
Yeah.
like you're like, oh, I just got a concussion, I'm turned on, I'm gonna smack somebody.
Mhm.
Take that personalities, except they're in metal and they're just
Wow.
wailing. I I- I've never seen a sport that was that enjoyable to watch and have zero interest in participating.
Wow. The Tony V, is that the guy from Kill Tony and the Roastmaster? Different Tony.
No, he was on like Seinfeld and
Oh.
Sopranos. He always plays like a Boston mobster,
Okay. All
but he's
right.
like he opens for Bill Burr a lot.
Okay.
Uh, he's on one of the podcasts, cigar
Okay.
podcasts that put the whole event together.
Gotcha.
Um, But oh
Yeah.
god, and just think of the soundtrack they're playing in the background while this is going on. You know, like AC/DC, Rage Against the
Sure.
Machine,
Oh gosh.
and
Okay.
yeah,
Wow.
it was like somebody's testosterone supplement exploded on stage. You know,
Wow.
you were just like, whoa, whoa. It was like an hour of the end of Iron Man. That's like like where he's like in
Yeah.
a cave with some fire and some metal, and then Black Sabbath comes on. That's what it was.
Wow. If
And
I go
Josh
to
is like, what is this?
what
Like,
is yeah. If I go to this thing with you next year, I'm just going to spend my entire time at the Drew Estate booth. I love the Drew Estate.
oh, it was awesome. I was sitting next to Jorge Padron right before he got introduced to be in the
Oh,
Cigar Hall of Fame. Had dinner
yeah.
with Rafael Nadal, and he was super nice.
What? Oh, interesting.
And I'm like walking around just like, oh. And Josh, who's like likes smoking cigars but doesn't know whatever, he's like, you're having the experience of other people that listen to theology podcasts, like when they come to camp. Or they're like, that's Catherine Keller, or that's John Dominic Crossan. Like,
Yep,
can I
yep.
go up and talk to them?
Yeah, that's
And
funny.
I went up to Rafael Nadal and was just like, hey, what's it like walking around seeing a lot of people that stick you in their mouth on the regular? And he just started laughing. He's like, I like you.
I used to have a Yorkie Terrier when I lived
Hmm.
in LA, named after Raphael.
The Ninja Turtle,
No, no, the tennis
the
player.
plan. Oh, no, this is the cigar blender, Bo.
Oh, sorry. He
Like,
has the same name as the tennis player?
yeah, it's spelled a little different.
Sorry, it
Um,
threw me off.
he's yeah, I'm not going to go into a description of him. That
Okay.
will
But
be the
you knew who
cigar
he
nerd.
was.
Oh yeah,
Okay.
yeah. But when I get into something, I tend
Yeah,
to really get
yeah.
into it.
You go down the rabbit hole.
Yeah. So speaking of
Yes.
rabbit holes,
Yes.
you're going to set up what we're doing. Bo was
Aha.
like, we're gonna talk about. You read some article, it triggered
I
you,
did.
then you messaged me.
Confused me.
Okay.
And yes, and then I thought, you know who'd be good to talk to about this is Trip. Trip, let me tell you why I think you have a skill set that you bring to this conversation specifically. Number one, you've read the Bible. That's a big qualification for this. Number two, you've studied theology, and specifically philosophical theology that thinks God is a caring something, being something. And then the third thing is you have worked at churches that focus on ministries of compassion and justice issues and marginalization. So you are, I think, uniquely qualified in your, whether you call it a Trinitarian or a perichoretic Venn diagram. I think that you're going to be able to talk me off the
Uh-huh.
ledge on this one.
Okay. Okay. What puts you on the ledge here, Bo? Everything about this setup is making me anxious.
So I read this article and I want to read parts of it to you and get your in real time feedback. And then I have two theories that I want to run past you after we talk about the article that may debunk the entire thing. I'm sort of suspicious this is all bullshit, but I don't know.
People put BS into articles and release them on the internet.
It seems like you're allowed to do that.
And what's the source for this? Do I get to guess at the end? Or are you going to tell me, like, how's this part work?
The source of the article?
Yeah.
Oh, no, it's an Associated Press. It's an AP article.
Oh, AP. Okay.
Yeah. Are you ready? Empathy is usually regarded as a virtue, a key to human decency and kindness. And yet, with increasing momentum, voices on the Christian right are preaching that it has become a vice. For them, empathy is a cudgel for the left. It can manipulate caring people into accepting all manner of sins, according to conservative Christians' perspective, including abortion access, LGBTQ plus rights, illegal immigration, and certain views. What do you think so far?
I'm concerned.
Oh, you are. I didn't know if this would resonate with you.
No, I mean, I understand the idea that if you are like a MAGA Christian right now, empathy is problematic because it's kind of like, what's the opposite of Doge? Empathy. Like if you're defunding, like our mutual friend Paul Phillips,
Yeah.
and all of his work with women with HIV, AIDS, and
Hope
children.
Africa.
Yep, Hope Positive, and I was talking to him about this and about the impact, right, of like USAID funding stuff. Here, I'll like we. Let me. I asked. He told me, and I was like, "OMG! Like that's way worse than." Like
He's been posting really interesting stuff lately.
Yeah, but he was basically talking about like the number of children, women who are sitting there with HIV/AIDS, and like we've been supporting like the ministry that they're working with. Like it includes like education and building a sustainable community and all these kinds of things. Like the moment they straight up just cut this funding, you now have Christian ministries, and he said it's not just his, who are just looking at all these people that Christians in America have been pouring all their money and attention, not just Christians, obviously, but like, and the same people that voted for Trump are the ones that are giving money to this, and now they're like, we're gonna need to raise thousands of dollars per person to get the medicine. And he said, here's a quote: "We have women in our villages now that are paying 5 to 10 days of wages and more for 1 month of medication they used to get free before Trump's cuts."
Oh my gosh.
A medicine that keeps you from like dying to having a flourishing life with your kids. So like that to me, like when I heard that, and thinking of, well, yeah, you're going to have to demonize empathy, but because you're going to keep hearing stories from like the ministry or church funds are now going, yeah, so we have people working a whole week just for the medicine that we used to send. But, before Big Balls and company got a hold of it.
Wow. All right, so check this out. This is a quote. Empathy becomes toxic when it encourages you to affirm sin, validate lies, or support destructive policies, said Allie Beth Stuckey, author of Toxic Empathy: How Progressives Exploit Christian Compassion. Stuckey, host of the popular podcast Relatable, is one of two evangelicals who published books within the past year making Christian arguments against some forms of empathy. Now, have you had her on the podcast yet?
No,
Because I know you interview authors and thinkers. And
I have not had Allie Beth Stuckey on the I don't know. We maybe she'd just come hang out on TNT Bo.
yeah. Oh, no. It might be helpful.
Might be
All right.
helpful.
I'm gonna keep.
She's gonna find out just how vile our souls are. Like
Well,
you're moved to compassion
yeah.
for people that lost their medicine funding. Like, why would you do that? I'm trying to follow Jesus.
I'm gonna keep reading.
Your smirk makes me uncomfortable as the direction of your reading.
The other is Joe Rigney, a professor and pastor who wrote The Sin of Empathy: Compassion and Its Counterfeits. It was published by Canon Press, an affiliate of Rigney's conservative denomination, which counts Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth among its members. These anti-empathy arguments gained traction in the early months of President Donald Trump's second term, with his flurry of executive orders that critics denounced as lacking empathy. As foreign aid stopped and more deportations began, Trump's then advisor Elon Musk told podcaster Joe Rogan, the fundamental weakness of Western civilization is empathy.
There you go.
Thoughts?
I would say I don't know if I'd use the phrase empathy if it's like something that's inherent to Western civilization. But I would say that Western civilization, it wasn't until the dominant consciousness of it was influenced by the Christian tradition where it identifies both a deep universal humanism,
Yeah.
where the boundary markers we would normally insert for those we care about and those we don't get dissolved the moment you affirm both the imago Dei of all people and the potential redemption of all people. And largely, like, I mean, it's Paul. Like, Paul's like, neither nor Jew or Greek, slave nor free, this kind of thing, that generates a kind of humanism in the West that, now exists without, you don't have to be a Christian to affirm it. But, the moment you recognize the full dignity of another person as something that makes a claim on you, then that does problematize easily dismissing people on the other side of your metaphorical wall as to anticipating a kind of ethical response. And then the other big shift that that I know Trump and Elon have demonstrated, that they have no sense at even feigning a vision of power where the greatest leaders are the ones that serve and tend to the least of these. Something that, like, even if I personally find George W. Bush a war criminal and rather reprehensible in all sorts of ways, like, he at least feigned it, and he talked to you could tell he lost sleep thinking about what he was going to do. You know what I mean? Like there is we would maybe describe the facts or incentives and stuff differently, and then Christians go like, well, he obviously knows more than the average citizen, so since he has these ethical drives, he's probably trying to figure it out because we don't know everything as a citizen, and you give him the best shot. That is not, you don't think when Elon and Trump are sitting there trying to cut that that like they're at least wanting to wake up the next day thinking they're a good human being.
Yeah.
And so uh
On a funny side note, I actually know Christians who thought Bill Clinton was the Antichrist, who thought George W. Bush was a war criminal, who thought Obama was the devil incarnate, who are now saying, "I wish we could get back to civility in our politics."
oh, I I'm not so sure. Like, I don't feel the need to lecture people on civility, as much as just like not dehumanizing.
Yeah,
Right? Like,
insanity.
I think you should be perfectly. I mean, this is very American thing, but like, just like, you're not your ideas, Bo. If we didn't agree on a thing and all we did was yell at the other one, and I think the ideas that you're articulating at this moment are reprehensible for the future of the church and Christianity and anyone that's your friend. I mean, I could just go on, but you're not your ideas. So, like, the whole premise, I think, of Christianity is like, one, love your enemy, right? So God sees something in the other that you may not see, and that's why you have to pray for them. And in democracy, you're like, uh, they there's not a future without violence that you don't both exist in this
Wow.
country. So
Wow.
they get permission to be wrong.
Yeah.
But see, underneath both of those commitments, the nature of freedom for the Christian and the nature of the freedom in a democracy is they're not their ideas, precisely because they could be someone different in the future. Like,
Wow.
that's how it functions. Um,
Huh.
and so we, like, a democracy is helpful because we've ran a lot of other experiments on what happens when we handle disagreements without the shared commitment across difference to,
This is
like, it sets up for junk gets killed. In Protestants, we were the ones that caused this all to go crazy all over Europe. Like, the Peace of Westphalia is like, oh, well, now that everyone's not under the same religious authority, how do we get along? We got all these wars going on. We're gonna need to think through a new notion of freedom, and that freedom involves the freedom to be wrong, right? The freedom of conscience,
interesting.
and that freedom shouldn't impinge on our freedom to be together. So it's like, the state authority is, how do you have responsibility to the whole, right? So, like, the logic of eliminating, say, uh, structural racism and or women's equality and these kind of things uh, is including the goal is to extend freedom all the way up to the point of protecting freedom for the other, because truth should win out, right? And in the process, we all collaborate, and we're avoiding shooting people or killing people or whatever. I'd like the so I don't have a problem saying things about people's ideas. I just don't have I I think I feel like I have a higher commitment as a, like, I feel obligated as a Christian, even though this isn't always expressed on my most basic instincts, that to protect the dignity of people that are wrong, in hopes that, knowing I'm wrong sometimes, and I would hope others do the same for me. And but that is not the modality that's even being feigned at this point. So it's very uncomfortable. I'm not optimistic.
No, it's going to get worse. Here comes J.D. Vance.
Oh,
A Catholic convert framed the idea in his own religious terms, invoking the concepts of ordo amoris, or the order of love. Within concentric circles of importance, he argued the immediate family comes first and the wider world comes last, an interpretation then Pope Francis rejected. While their while their anti-empathy arguments have differences, Stuckey and Rigney have audiences that are firmly among Trump's Christian base. Now, here comes a different voice. Historian Susan Lenzoni traced a century of empathy's uses and definitions in her 2018 book, Empathy, A History. Though it's had its critics, she has never seen an aspirational term so derided as it is now. It's been particularly jarring to watch Christians take down empathy, said Lenzoni, a graduate of Harvard Divinity School. Quote, That's the whole message of Jesus, right? Close quote. So this is where I start to have a little bit of a problem. Okay? I don't think it was the whole message of Jesus.
Jesus has a host of things.
Yeah.
I would imagine empathy is on the list of things.
Yes. Yes, but when people, especially progressives, boil it down, I mean, the joke is Jesus didn't get killed for telling people to be nice to each other.
Correct.
So it's not the whole message. And I think this is where our problem starts is
Uh,
that is that progressive Christianity or liberal Christianity, they're not the same thing at all. By the way, Josh, I would love to talk to you about that weird podcast where you actually it was a really insightful podcast, but you got to talk to a guy, Cook. What's from Seattle? What's his name?
Dan?
Dan Cook.
Oh,
It was a great listen, but Josh, there's some blending, some muddying of the water. I would love to talk with you about. Anyway, so part of my problem is that the Venn diagram of liberal Christianity, let's call it, largely housed in the main line, and conservative Christianity, especially the branch of evangelical and charismatic that I'm most familiar with. Trip, there's not that big of an overlap in that Venn diagram. It's
no
it's
joke.
and here's the thing. Each side is missing major components of what the other side emphasizes. And it's jarring to me how like divided the priorities and the expressions are, and that there's almost no overlap. I think that's part of our problem.
Well, I see. I think the empathy bit and evangelicalism disappeared once they just, yeah, so many of them just stopped reading the Gospels,
Yeah,
right? And I think mainline Protestants, don't tend not to look at the Bible very often,
that's true.
and when they
That's
do,
true.
it would be verses that the divinity grad in the story is probably thinking of. Um, but I don't know. I feel like if Jesus was giving like basic advice, and be like, when in doubt, just assume uh, being seized by the plight of another is something to cultivate, not repress. That something like
Okay,
that.
that's interesting. All right.
Like, don't you think like the incarnation is basically a doctrine of divine empathy? That's
Well, this is why I wanted to talk to you. So I need help with this. All right. So talking about the golden rule, Stuckey admits Jesus is an empathetic figure. In her book, The Southern Baptist from Texas writes, in a way, Jesus embodied empathy when he took on flesh, suffered the human experience, and bore the burden of our sins by enduring a gruesome death. She's clear that empathy can be good, but she writes it has been co-opted to convince people that the progressive position is exclusively the one of kindness and morality. If you really care about women, you'll support the right to choose, she writes in her progressive line of thinking. If you really respect people, you'll use preferred pronouns. If you really are compassionate, you'll welcome the immigrant.
okay. I mean, those are three very different
Right?
things, right? So the first one, abortion, it's all going to depend on what you think the theological status of a fertilized embryo kind of, like the question of person, and that's it. It's not that I don't understand the ability for a Christian to think, oh, the moment of conception. It's just that's not a univocal opinion of church history, and if you don't, and most of the explanation seems supernatural, which is really hard to make that function as an ethical claim on other people. I don't. But then again, this was just not. I've never found that compelling. Uh, so I don't. You like. I don't. I can imagine that it would be animating to me, like looking at a bunch of Christians who are really concerned about embryos but have no general interest in the lives of Palestinian kids or people with HIV/AIDS we're cutting funding to, or the millions of people who have died from the military industrial complex, or those that will die because of our ecological devastation. Like, and like you're sitting on your hands on all those, but you're like, but hold on, let me tell you. And then the moment you know the history of evangelicalism's like invention of uh of the abortion issue, like
Yeah.
that, when you know the history, which people can go listen to the interview with Ronald Palmer on it, they came up with that. But what kicked off the religious rights political activism was integrating schools. And then they're like, oh, we need an issue
Yeah.
to rally around. And it's really bad PR to go with this one. So we're going to keep working around until we find one. And that's what they came up with. But like,
That interview with Balmer, by the way, what I listened to it twice back to back. It was so good.
yeah. So like when she says that one, the only, you can have cognitive empathy, like to think how someone else would hear that. And if you have certain a priori commitments, then you're like, oh, okay. But the, but then like the idea that that's the same thing, as like whether you want to be nice to someone who has preferred pronouns, like it's immoral to call someone what they ask. I, I don't, I don't see
Okay.
the connection. What was the third issue? Oh,
Uh,
immigrants. Immigrant. Okay, let's just like you're like you need to have a supernatural vision of a fertilized egg. Second, you're like this makes even less sense. I am now resisting the empathy of being nice to someone in conversation because they're like anyway. But then the third one is you're
yep.
like, look, I've looked at the Bible
Yeah.
and Satan, just like in the fossil record to convince us that the earth is more than 6,000 years old, has inserted all these dead end verses about immigration and how you treat the foreigner. And just secretly, it might be one of the only topics that goes so hard in the Bible, but it's a trick. It's like going to the Natural History Museum and you're like, that's a freaking stegosaurus. I wonder when they lived. And you're like, ha ha, Satan arranged it like a Lego puzzle for secular scientists just to put it in here to screw you. That's like once you get to immigration, you're just kind of like, yeah, yeah. You're like, I wonder who gets pumped when Joshua's like, God said to kill our animals and kids. That person was like, look, finally, no more empathy. We gotta take some out. Uh, yeah, I don't get that one, Bo.
All
The,
right.
the the selection of those issues makes me think. Um, not moved.
Okay. There's one more section I want to read you
Oh,
because I'm enjoying your reactions in real time. So
I know, but I
Rigney,
feel like this is all a setup for
no,
you to
it's not.
harass
It's
me.
not.
Okay,
I mean, it could take a turn, but I don't
okay,
have it. It's not planned. Rigney said
it's in
initially
process.
he experienced pushback from certain corners of evangelicalism that at the time were very dialed into questions of the hashtag Me Too movement and abuse of or critical race theory, social justice kind of stuff. This debate over empathy often devolves into arguments over word choices or semantics. Rigney prefers older terms like compassion, sympathy, or even pity. Okay? So
Okay,
you go. Yep.
no, I don't have a problem. I mean, this is what I don't get. All right, let's imagine this team seems to me like the real issue is that you're so alienated from the dominant cultural discourse that you experience that as a threat to the
That's right.
viability and plausibility of your continued existence.
Yeah.
And therefore, unlike uh unlike all of these for so long we're in evangelicals, we're like, whoa, politics, that's a bit much. We're gonna be faithful
Mm-hmm.
witnesses and try to, live out the gospel and be compelling in that way. They're like, wow, now, now the bathroom sign changed. Now, I mean, what is this? Like, this is one step from Nero. And
Mm-hmm.
like, and you're just like, come on. I
Yeah.
like that to me is the bit I don't get it. I you know, if those intuitions like the world our culture's changing and the gospel is less compatible with it, I'm like, yes.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
features that are making the gospel less compatible with it are like the very ones you're leveraging to force it on other people. Like this is why great, it is we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of the country. This is one of those moments where I'm like, we gotta, we gotta get back. Roger Williams had a point, you know, like if we use the state to coerce people's conscience into quote identifying with Christianity or being a believer, then you're just gonna have the church full of people who actually don't got the love of Jesus in them. They'll say the phrases Savior and Lord, but they don't like recognize the deep solidarity of the incarnation, the transformation of their brokenness towards wholeness and divine participation, and the necessary freedom of that kind of loving response. You're like, no, we got to make sure everyone's on the same page here, or junk's going to get out of hand. And
Yep.
and Roger Williams is like, what? How are we going to have a church act like Jesus if half the people are only in there because they feel coerced into being there or that they have to be there or they have to feign it for cultural value, recognition, and stuff like that? No, basket. We got to have the freedom and liberty of conscience if you're going to have an actual true church. Then they can actually act like Christ because they don't have a bunch of people running around in there saying like, why would we care about immigrants? Who wanted us to mess with that? So that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
get, but almost all those issues though, you can imagine like a much more reasonable pushback to the form of it that they dwelled on. Like if everything was the libs of TikTok, and you think that's an accurate depiction of half the country, why they would experience it in apocalyptic terms, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I meant like if your tribe is waging political power by getting all the billionaires that run the social media companies on your side, which they just want to make money, and like you're like dialing up the very feature of our social kind of fabric that's making everything worse. And in I would put it this way: the command not to bear false witness is important. Like, and if it's half the country that you're bearing false witness against, it's important. I think it's true when my friends say stuff, and I will say things privately to them, and I try to be careful what I say, because if you bear false witness, like that's like a direct commandment not to do it. And if in my experience talking with people, very conservative Christians, that's what they feel happened to them in the public square. And then they were like, we can turn the other cheek as long as we structure the algorithms to our advantage.
Okay. I have two stories for you, and embedded in the stories is my theory of where this whole thing has gone awry. The entire framing of this has gone awry. Okay.
All right.
Over Labor Day, I got to spend time with my favorite conservative. He is a Trumper from the middle of the country, of the generation just older than myself, and he is down the line the most predictable person I know. You pick a topic, and I can tell you what he's going to say before he says it, right?
Yeah.
So whenever a story about Portland comes up, he's going to talk about homeless.
Oh yeah.
Right. Whenever, like,
not the return of Damian Lillard. Come on.
No, did he go back?
Yes.
From Wisconsin?
Yeah, he got injured, and they signed
no.
him back, and so he's going to finish up career in Portland.
Oh.
And Anyway,
That's so nice.
I
Okay.
love Damian Lillard.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Yeah, great basketball
Um,
player.
so I like hanging out with this guy. He is one of, I have a number, quite a few actually, of folks on that side of the political spectrum who trust me and will just tell me crazy shit behind the scenes, like off the record, and they help me to know what I'm actually dealing with, right? So, as I was talking with him, I had sort of an epiphany, which is that this non overlapping diagram that I talked to you about between conservative Christianity and liberal Christianity, one of the key things is this issue of sin. Conservative Christians deal exclusively. I'm painting with a broad brush here, but this is in the 90s accurate percentage wise. They deal with personal sin, not structural or corporal or institutional. And where we're missing each other, Trip, is like when I first became United Methodist in 2010, I happened to be on the west side of LA, and I had culture shock and theological whiplash because on my new team, we dealt exclusively, almost, in corporate, institutional, and structural sin, and zero in personal sin. And so part of the understanding of if empathy is a sin or leads to sin, part of the reason that it can be tough to decipher that sentence and parse it out is because we're talking about different things when we talk about sin. So when evangelicals who think about sin personally, when they say empathy, but if it creates a permissive structure that allows somebody to participate in personal sin, then that's bad. And then on the other side, my liberal friends are saying, yeah, but you, Mr. Evangelical, participate in corporate, structural, and institutional sin at every level by deferring to the market and the greed and the callousness. And we're just talking past each other, but part of the problem is in this non-overlapping diagram. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I mean, I think, um, I think like we need to have a sin revival. You know,
Yeah, let's bring sin
um,
back.
I I have this little essay I've been working on, and it's a little intense currently, so I've been trying to dial it back. But I do think the uh, here's what comes to mind. If
Okay.
we think of Genesis, the prehistory stories, like up to Abraham, first 11 chapters, um, when the sin doesn't show up till chapter 4. I'm just being a biblical literalist. So, in chapter 3, the serpent, it's like, hey, Eve, look at this tasty fruit. It's pretty awesome. You know what happens if you get knowledge of good and evil? You'll be like God. This is great. And you ask some questions to Eve, and she says, "Well, we're not supposed to touch it." Wrong. Adam didn't tell her the truth, but well, God told Adam not to eat it. So Adam's already deceived her, and built a fence around the command of God, right? Like, don't touch it. And really, God said, don't eat it. But I guess the rib couldn't hear it at this point in the story. She's deceived between Adam, the serpent. Now all of a sudden they're naked, and God says, "Where are you?" Right?
Yeah.
You get that whole bit going down, and human beings, we develop like this sense of consciousness, sense of self in contrast to other people. There's now this distance between the
Yep.
humans,
Yeah.
nature, God, and stuff like that. But sin doesn't show up until Cain and Abel. They are doing their sacrifices. Cain, a little jealous of Abel, is a little fumey about this. And what are the questions God gives Cain? hey, where's your brother? You know you're angry right now. The text says like he was just stewing, You're angry. And God says, sin is at the doorstep. Now, whoa. Oh, you're saying there's both this call to solidarity, right, between these brothers, like where
Yeah.
I'm not my brother's keeper's his response, and God's like, well, actually, this is
Technically.
technically what I was trying to work on. And then after he murders his brother, it says the ground is crying out because the blood spilt on it. And then God intervenes to break the cycle of violence, and humans are like, don't tempt us. And junk gets worse. And it kind of snowballs all the way to Babel. Well, when you're looking at that story, and then you say Noah, and it's like everyone was riled up in the same violence that's going on, all the way to the Babel, like, oh, we're gonna work our technology and build ourselves up here. There's like this growing snowball of sin, but it definitely includes like the breakdown between humanity and God, the breakdown between individuals, between families, between tribes, between whole peoples, between creation and the divine. And like you get all those elements. You get the individual, you get the social, cultural, and the institutional and structural. And they're all there. And I feel like anytime we when we minimize the severity of the human predicament, then it ends up generating a naivete about part of what it means to be human. And so you can have someone who is so focused on personal sin, would be literally the greatest neighbor of all time. And the person that was hit a hard time in their neighborhood and stuff, they're committed socially, culturally, and structurally against their well-being, and will go vote that way and act that way and protest that way. And you're like, well, how's that make sense, right? Or vice versa, in our experience to in more progressive mainline congregations, where you're like, well, we're committed to all these kinds of things, but y'all are among the most lying and backstabby people at a church I've ever dealt with. And you don't notice the volume of interpersonal manipulation and stuff that's going on, and you're like, and they're the same people that are like, why do we have to have the confession in the worship service every week? And you're like,
let's talk about that.
So I definitely think, Marjorie Suhaki has the thing of like sin, the doctrine of sin's a three-legged stool that has the individual, which includes all the things we inherit biologically as a species that generate both the potential for us to collaborate and cooperate and to draw lines between the others that limit flourishing, the social, cultural stuff, and the institutional things. And then a doctrine of sin, you need to have all three legs fully touching the ground to get to be able to capture the human predicament.
Yeah. Can we just say, Marjorie Suhaki, incredible thinker, and author. I mean, her writing, The Fall to Evil.
Fall to Violence.
Fall to Violence, thank you. So good.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, maybe you should just tell everyone they gotta go read that book. Be like, look, you just need to read it.
Yeah, all right, everyone go read Fall to Violence. It's so good. I mean, devastatingly gut-wrenching. Right? It's not good like chicken soup for the soul. Not that kind of, right? It's different. Hey, Trip, two side issues before I tell you my final component here. What would you think about having a confession booth at Beer Camp where people could confess their sins?
Are you building it?
I'm
immediately
offering.
think this sounds. I know Kristen. The moment if I message her, like, I need a confession booth.
It was just an idea. I'm throwing it out.
It like blue like jazz.
Oh, the reverse confession booth. Come on, that might have been the best moment in that entire book. That was so brilliant.
Yeah. We don't need a sidetrack on where that train went.
Yeah, that went. It got strange after that.
Hmm.
All right, one more thing. So this is why I think the whole way this thing is framed might be horseshit. Okay. So in my United Methodist circles and in my academic circles, often, and amongst my left leaning friends, when they talk about diversity, they're talking about racial diversity. So this is the way signifiers migrate, is that when half of a phrase is missing, like I always like to attend to it, right? This is my critical theory. So when we say diversity, but mean racial diversity, and evangelicals do that too. I'm just giving you an example. Things can get a little complicated, all right? Especially, this is my argument, when there is a second migration for the migrating signifier. So in the Portland area, the United Methodist had an innovation team. But really, it was about racial diversity. When they said innovation, they didn't mean like what I did, where I took out the pews and made conversational church flattened, democratized, and decentered. They meant racial diversity, bringing in clergy of color from other denominations or seminaries and bringing them in to dying congregations that still had a little bit of endowment money. So it took me a minute to figure out that innovation also meant diversity, which actually meant racial diversity. Okay, so that's a double signifier, double migration. Okay, here's my working theory I want to run past you. I am growing suspicious. So, like, when I was a visiting professor at a seminary, they were going through a diversity change, but it was doubled because they had also gotten rid of the historical denomination that not only gave the seminary its name, but also financial support and had its own study center there. They had dismantled that and had actually replaced it with a Pentecostal study, a Center for Pentecostal Studies. And off the record, people would admit to me that this was because not only were the Pentecostal students that were sent more racially diverse, but because the cultures they came from were inherently conservative on social issues, that it was going to be, they could talk about race and culture and the homosexuality, the anti-homosexuality stance would be assumed. So both in my liberal denomination, diversity was a signifier for racial diversity that also included a second one, which was innovation. But in my more conservative evangelical context, diversity was a wonderful roadblock for avoiding the homosexuality conversation. I think these double signifiers are really important, and I'm growing suspicious that empathy is one of them. I think that the anti-empathy thing, it's not about empathy, because empathy is so clear in the scriptures they claim to get guidance from. I think there's a smokescreen, and that it's not about empathy at all.
Really? Because Allie Beth Stuckey gave those 3 issues that Jesus spends a lot of time talking about, about abortion, about language, pronouns, and immigration. Like, Jesus, like, build a wall, occupy vaginas, and only use the pronouns my daddy made you. It's in the Sermon on the Mount, Bo.
I missed the part about the walls. Jesus loves walls. I missed that part, but
yeah, one time the disciples are like, "Hey, the wall broke a little bit and killed these guys on the bottom, like, whose sin was it? Was it theirs or their parents? And Jesus said, whoa, disciples, you're off key. You know, the real problem is Israel's been letting in too many Samaritans.
Well, in fairness, Jesus did say, if you knock down these walls, I'll rebuild them in 3 days.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly what it was. And then he's like, and I'm going to make Satan pay for it.
Oh my gosh, that might have been the funniest thing you have said. That is hilarious. Oh, I'm going to clip that. That was funny. By the way, I might tell that joke down the road and forget to give you credit. So just so you know.
It won't be the first time. I have reversed it quite a few times. My favorite is if I tell you something back you told me.
Yeah.
And
so, I heard somewhere. Like, that was me. That was me.
If I told you about these 3 different energetic centers for kinds of churches. Okay. Can I give you an example of your stories that made me? Oh, go ahead.
Side note: with your help, I have been reworking it away from the third one being messianic, and I've gone to salvific. And I think it's getting a better reception from people because they don't get distracted by the messianic.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, okay, when I was on the committee for our region in Southern California, Nevada, and which, when you're very progressive in LA, denomination, all the vibes you were talking about for progressives are there. And so in the same meeting of like recognizing the ordination and treating churches as church plants and stuff, we give an ordination with like to an immigrant first generation preacher who's like anti-gay, has charts about the end of the world. But it's a ethnic congregation.
Yeah.
And so all the progressive white guilt's like, oh, we're going to include them, and now we're being more diverse. The next person comes in, someone who is excommunicated from their evangelical denomination.
By the way, I am pre-cringing. I don't know what you're going to say, but I am bracing myself.
So this individual, which you probably know everyone involved in this, it was extremely successful at a Presbyterian church that left the PCUSA and went eco, which has nothing to do with environmentalism. It just means they don't like gay people. I'm sure they like them, just like God does, better when they're straight. But so he loses his job there, though he had developed a college ministry that would have made just that college ministry the 4th biggest church in our denomination in the region. And they're like, well, he went to Fuller and not really progressive enough theology, and he's going to need to take some classes at one of our affiliated seminaries and learn how to be one of us. And I'm like looking around, and I'm like, so we're giving money to the 40-person church that shares none of our values because we have white guilt, but somebody who serving queer kids, college kids, changes their mind, evolves to see that what is so important to the UCC is important, and is successful, and has like your students going to his college ministry thing. Like that guy, we're like, if you could spend 2 more years in div school, we could really partner with you. And I raised the question, and I'm like, wait, I have no problem with us investing in church plants of predominantly ethnic churches, like, but don't you think they should, like, the LGBTQ community in LA that are part of our denomination, significant. When they give money to do that, they probably aren't wanting you to give money to people who don't recognize them, right? While at the same time, someone who is ministering to our biggest clientele college educated white people in Southern California with progressive moral commitments. That guy, you're like, you got to go back to school.
Oh,
He has an ATS
wow.
accredited MDiv, and the other person went to like some online Bible college with premillennial dispensationalist charts in his sermons.
Wow.
And I was the only one that voiced it, and they're like, but that's different. I was like, but anyway, you know how you've been present for these kinds of conversations. Watching that, I was like, this is why the main line is going to die.
Yeah.
Like this.
That's an amazing, that contrast, that's profound, man. Wow. Hey, I know I'm not going to get a confession booth at Beer Camp, but here's an idea. Can we put a wall-sized eschatology chart on the wall with a "You are here" arrow?
Ooh. That's possible. I had someone send me a giant chart they found at their
yeah.
You remember I showed it to you one time last year on
here? Yeah.
I've thought about getting it laminated.
Yes.
And making it like, when you come up to get your beer, like there's an end of the world chart.
Yeah.
On it. And then moving the beer down closer to the apocalypse based on its ABV.
Now, people who haven't been with us for more than 10 years may not know I had a wall-sized end times chart on my office wall when I was an evangelical pastor.
Well,
so
you didn't save it because we could use that.
I wonder, I could reach out to the congregation and see if it's in storage or something.
You're like, could I borrow it for
to make fun of it? Well, here's the funny thing. When I tell these stories, I'm not using a caricature of somebody else, and I'm not lampooning or making a, what do they call it? Like a straw man argument. I'm talking about myself. This is me and people I still am in relationship with. So I have to throw that out sometimes as a qualifier, because otherwise people would be like, well, I don't think that you're you're given the benefit of the doubt or arguing in good faith, or it seems like you're using exaggerated cartoonish examples. No. These are my stories. That was me.
Yeah. KJ here wants to know if this is too early for a stogie, and I just wanted to make sure that the answer is no. Coffee with a cigar on Friday morning means that the weekend officially has started early. And if you organize your life right, like you just play on the internet for a living, then every day's the weekend. But yeah. Plus Lori likes to join, which that reminds me. Oh wait, I know you have another point, but we should because remember how we were talking about doing this one week, but on Zoom for anyone that lets us know in advance. We send them the Zoom, and we don't know what topics they're going to bring up.
Oh yeah.
And
I do. Yeah, I love this idea.
So I think we should message people like on our Substack and be like, do you want to join? And then it's anything they bring up. But we got to give it a time limit so we can cut them off without it being rude.
Yeah.
Because I know if it was reversed, I would ask a 10-minute question. I mean, everyone listens to the podcast knows that's the case.
Side note, you recently had an author on from Baylor.
Yeah, Alicia Kaufman.
Listen, that conversation between you two, not only was it just a delightful, I mean, she's really sharp and just funny and clever. I enjoyed her perspective so much. But you know what my favorite part was? You apologized at the end for asking really long questions, and she said, "That's right, I didn't answer what you asked anyway."
Yeah,
that was really fun to listen to.
Yeah, the last week I don't know in the last 2 weeks, because I had 2 things and weekends in a row, so everything can run together. But I had a bunch of peers, like other other theologians or scholars of religion
Mm-hmm.
email about that episode and
Yeah.
the Cornell West one.
Oh, okay. I
And
haven't listened to Cornell yet.
um, the the and I was it's it's always, I like getting emails that are nice. It's better
Mm-hmm.
than
Mm-hmm.
vague threats to my soul or
Oh no.
kin. And
Yeah.
and I will say, like um I have some I can't say that on a live
Okay.
stream.
All right.
But let yeah, I'm just self editing. I don't want to
Good.
out
Good.
anyone. But
Well
the
done.
yeah. But it's always nice when
Yeah.
people who know both of you, right, and are academics, and I was like, that's one of their best interviews. Like you got stuff out
Oh
of them
yeah.
I didn't know, or stuff like that.
That's a high compliment.
I know. So I was feeling good about it, and then you just reaffirmed it. So
I have a shout out. Let me see. All right. So listen to this. My friend Cynthia Schaefer Elliott is a professor of Hebrew Bible at Baylor, and her husband Rob listens to the show. He's a faniac with us, and he was in a coffee shop the other day and walked past somebody's water bottle that had the monk on it. And so I just want to give a shout out to Ryan in Waco, Texas, for representing the monk on his water bottle in the library or the coffee shop. I think that's freaking cool, man.
oh yeah, I the one of my favorite things now that I use video more than sometimes people will actually know what I look
Oh,
like,
okay.
but
Yeah.
at the cigar festival, someone came up to me from behind and was like,
No.
"Hey, are you Trip?" And I was like,
Oh, man.
"Yeah." It's like, you sounded like yourself, but I always listen at 1.5.
Listen, that has only happened to me once, and it was so memorable. I was in San Antonio at the American Academy of Religion thing, and I was at a luncheon, and I was having a conversation, really nice conversation with somebody. You know how you line up on both sides of the table to go down the buffet line? And I was having a nice conversation with somebody down there, and a guy 3 or 4 people ahead of me turned around and said, "I'm sorry, are you the Bo Daddy?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I would recognize that voice anywhere."
Oh,
Isn't that cool?
yeah, you are the Bo Daddy.
I loved it. I do think about it from time to time, how just because it's the only time it's ever happened. So,
Um, one random aside about the empathy thing.
oh yeah, back to empathy.
Paul Bloom, like the psychology professor,
Okay.
long time, I think, at Yale, and then he's in Toronto now. But he has a book called Against Empathy, and
Oh,
when I heard a
like
few,
against bullshit?
the like the book is looking at how empathy can lead to immoral and unequal decisions, right? When something specific seizes you and it orients your focus without kind of reflecting on all the variables of where you put your energy and stuff, and how the cognitive mechanisms that generated binding in smaller groups can generate a responsiveness, right? Like, oh, a millionaire gives all this money to Harvard, and you're like, what would have been more effective, so something like that. But anyways, looking at it, that um a more distanced compassion can lead to better outcomes, and it's this it's an exploration of psychology and then outcomes and looking it through, and it's a fun book. I like 3/4 of it, but he was complaining on he and Robert Wright do a podcast all the time. I'm a huge Robert Wright fan, and about all these MAGA people randomly footnoting his book to to get to justify stuff. That was my reference point when you brought up this topic. I was like, oh, I read Against Empathy. I was like, did Bo read Paul Bloom's book? And we're going to talk about that. No.
Oh,
So there is the whole psychological science of empathy and how it can give certain distorted incentives if you're trying to do more effective good Anyway, but
So yeah, just on one final note, I'm glad you came back around to empathy. Just one final note. I don't know that I said this as clearly as I wanted to, so I'd love to have a second chance at it. One of the things that is making these debates and our cultural climate right now tricky is A, some folks, and I'm going to say specifically on the right leaning half of our political divide right now, but specifically culturally, they're not acting in good faith. And I'm trying to figure out why. And what I think it is, like I listened to this weird conversation this week between Ezra Klein and Ben Shapiro. And it was really cool that Ben Shapiro like let his guard down and like told actual truths about where this all comes from and what it's rooted in. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you got him to say that. You know, it was wild actually to listen to. But I think one of the things that's complicated for those of us who feel so bewildered as to what the hell is going on in our society and culture right now, in our politics, that just go, I can't even keep up with this stuff. It's so chaotic and so confusing. I don't even understand how people get to, this conclusion or whatever. Well, part of the problem is not everyone, especially people in the media, they're not being truthful. They're not acting in good faith. And I think that's really hard for your average person like me to try and like watch the news or listen to different perspectives and just to be like, something's not lining up. It's just, I'm missing something. I don't have a decoder ring. I'm missing the little piece of red cellophane to lay over this text. I know I'm missing something. Well, part of that can be these double coded floating signifiers. And if things like empathy or innovation actually means something else, it can be really hard to track the argument and try and understand where the other person's coming from because there's two blind signifiers between what you hear them saying and the motive behind it. It can be very, very difficult to communicate and to actually understand where someone's coming from when we use these. I mean, they function essentially as smoke screens. So if you are a person, say in Huron County, Ohio, the cornfields of central Ohio, and the truth is you just don't want to be told what to do, right? And you don't like gay people, right? It's just, you don't agree, right, with the gay lifestyle or how flamboyant they are, whatever it is, and you just don't want to be told what to do, then this thing about empathy can be useful to you because you don't have to say, look, I don't like gay people. You can talk about how empathy leads to sin. And it's just, for me, it really, I use the phrase muddies the water, but it makes being in dialogue very difficult unless someone tells you what's really the motive behind what they're doing is they don't want to be imposed upon and they don't want to sanction what they see as your personal sin, even if they're complicit in corporate, institutional, and systemic issues, right? But if they don't want to be put upon or obligated to validate what they see as not good in your life, this empathy thing is a nice little barrier to hide behind, a roadblock.
so like in lieu of just being, I'm a bigot about this.
Yep.
You're like, whoa, I'm,
Mm-hmm.
this is a gateway.
Yeah.
Empathy is a gateway to,
Yeah.
but I don't,
Yeah.
do you think part of it is some people put their prejudice on Front Street and others use, I mean, some of them are just so clear. about their problems with
Right.
a large portion of the population.
Yeah.
That and others, I find it like, in those people that
Yeah.
um, they're trying to explain their support for something. You're like, doesn't this seem vile? But they can't just be like, well, they have to have something else. So let's rage on empathy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
What
I don't.
in fairness though, I've been in these liberal circles for long enough now, both in my academic life and my denominational life. I see why you can't bring up what you actually think because of the policing of boundaries and the gatekeeping that leftist folks can be really aggressive about.
Oh,
And
I know. I get what you mean. Just
so,
sadly, I have every opinion I've ever had on the internet, so it doesn't take a lot to find where Trip parted ranks
right?
with his tribe.
Yeah. So, like, for instance, if you are a homeowner and you say, look, I get what's going on in the economy and people experiencing homelessness, but the simple fact is, it makes me nervous when people are doing drugs on the other side of the fence in my backyard, and I don't want them sleeping there, and it also hurts my property values. And right, and then you seem like such an uncaring person because you're like, oh, poor landowner, of the gentry. And it's like, okay, you can slander me all you want, but if we can't have honest dialogue about the NIMBY mentality of not in my backyard, right? And we're all vilified. So all of that is to say, between these double signifiers, migrating, and then people not acting in good faith, and then the villainization of folks by folks on the left of people being honest about where they are if it's not as left as they are, you put those three things together and it sort of makes sense why we are talking past each other, and it's so difficult to find common ground.
Well, I mean, even on that issue, um, I mean, when I lived in Europe, they some of that issue, right, of drug abuse leading to homelessness and all that kind of stuff. Like the responses that minimize that problem and lead to greater like reintegration rates, like of getting treatment and all that kind of stuff, and rehousing people and all that, are all policies. No, like aren't those we can't consider those in the United States because they're like nanny state stuff. Um, and so like decriminalizing drugs, but then having like a lot higher available rehabilitation things that you can force citizens into, right? Like there are other states have solution, like there are other countries that have solutions to these problems that make it dramatically different, all of which involve having a social contract where you trust the state to be a part of a collaboration process of helping individuals. And like in LA in the South Bay, I was on the board for our interfaith group that worked primarily with veterans who are homeless, and a large number of them with psychological or addiction issues. And the it it like it if you know, getting to know any of those individual stories, it's hard to think of them as like the irresponsible one that's fully, it's their agency that created this problem. You're like, well, no, they were in Iraq. They killed a lot of people. They have a genetic predisposition towards X. The poppy filter moving, they get addicted, they come back, they can't hold a job, and they have anyway. You like there are all these elements to it, and I think part of what happens in the United States is we frame things on our own well-being so much that progressives will be like, not in my backyard, and more conservatives were like, I'm not wasting money on the state because they're a drug addict. And
Yeah.
but the it's underneath it, I think, is the like, as a nation right now, we have such a deep distrust in the potential for collaborative politics that uh, that then we could even agree on an issue, but we can't handle. Think of like how long we've needed to do immigration reform, and like, and even the bipartisan work on it and stuff doesn't get funded, or we start cutting aid to countries in Central Africa or Central America that generate the need for people to come to the States to feed their family, and then we're going to demonize them, and not like what we did as the stewards of the global economy on
Yeah.
those nation states stuff. So like the it, I think a lot of the issues that are breaking the social fabric are like uh, bipartisan habits of
Yeah.
doing nothing because they'd rather have the election issue than any progress. Um,
I
it's
think, yeah,
suppressive.
I think my final sort of thing I want to just make sure is in the mix is that politics has gotten upstream of religion. You introduced that phrase a number of months ago, and we keep returning to it. One of the expressions of that is, well, I'll tell a story. I was having lunch with a retired clergy person who I respect so much. She is so insightful, caring, just gets it in a way that very few people of any generation. I just love spending time with her. And we were having lunch, and there were a number of conversations happening. And it came up that I know lots of people, both in Montana and Ohio, who vote regularly against funding public education. And she said, "How can they? Aren't they Christians?" And I said, "Oh yeah, they're like committed Christians." And she said, "How can you be a Christian and vote against, like, this happened to be about school. Oh, I remember why it came up. We serve 600 backpacks in the park across the street. That's how it came up, because there's no school lunch program when they're out for the summer in Idaho. This is how it came up." And so she was like, she could not imagine that you could be a Christian and vote against funding school lunches, right? And
Well, there's a reason.
well, but I had to say, hold on. I've talked with these
Yeah.
folks, and all they're saying is that's not the government's job. So they want the church, like the church gives the backpacks, right? In partnership with a nonprofit that's housed in our building. And they think that's how it should happen, is through community groups and nonprofits. They're just saying, I don't want my taxes to go to that, right? It's not the government's job. And in telling that story, I have gotten so much feedback from people both on the left and on the right about the role of government, and if there's a moral obligation from those of us who call ourselves people of faith in what we direct our government to do versus what we do as communities and nonprofits. And it has been so eye-opening to figure out we're just talking past each other. We're not even talking the same language because of the assumptions we make.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I just find it odd when, you know, feeding kids has that role, but funding the military industrial complex doesn't. You know, like, this is when I'm like, okay,
Ouch.
we cut all this stuff
Ouch.
in our government and gave a raise to the military industrial complex, and they still can't pass an audit. You know, so
Yeah.
like
Oof.
usually the logic that runs
Touche.
gets applied to like feeding a poor kid who's not
Yeah.
going to have lunch in the summer, but it doesn't apply to feeding Boeing
Yeah.
or Raytheon or Palantir to spy on us as citizens and create digital avatars, put us on watch lists because of X, Y, and Z. Like, so the and I know most people think like different topics come with different frameworks.
Yeah.
But when we think of like what we do as a state, there's one thing like provide for the national defense, and then there's creating a surveillance state internally, and funding and building all sorts of stuff for the like. And as a Christian, I will lose way more sleep with spending extra to feed someone than spending a whole lot extra and not being able to follow the receipts to bring a giant death machine, right? Like I'm like, well,
Wow.
you know what? If we dropped our taxes by half because we just decided not to have a uh, a global death machine, like you know, um, I, I would be cool giving a whole lot more money to do the stuff on the other side, but
Oh
that's not,
boy.
that's not what happened. We had we expanded our military budget while not giving meds and food to large numbers of people in and outside of our country. Then,
Trip. I can I be honest about something?
yeah.
I feel like a deflated balloon. I thought that you and I were going to end on a high note of trying to find common ground. And I'm sort of realizing it's worse than I thought.
Well, I'll tell you something exciting, Bo.
I'm melting over here.
All right. Well, everyone should come to Theology Beer Camp, theologybeercamp2025.com. There, like, there's not a whole lot of tickets left, but one of the sessions on the Theology Nerd stage that Bo's doing is going to be really exciting. And if you already got your tickets, you're going to get an email this week, and in it, it will have a link to pre-recorded lectures for all the Theology Nerd stages, because we're doing it a little different this year.
Whoa.
So, Bo, you've had this experience. Sometimes when nerds have panels and they're going to discuss, the first 3/4 of it are a single question followed by a lecture that you were not asking for, and then it sets up posturing, right? And then
I've seen the posturing.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm not going to say this has ever happened or not happened at Theology Beer Camp, but this year, I'm like, I don't want to do that. Also, when you're sitting there for like 70 minutes of hardcore nerd stage, not like we are intentionally more, then half the room is still figuring out what the hell they were talking about because they don't have a graduate degree, but they want to figure it out.
Yeah.
And then they get all their questions the next day and are grabbing people. And so each of the sessions, 2 or 3 people pre-recorded lectures on the topic.
Incredible.
So everyone can watch them before and send questions. And I'm going to send you all the feedback for the Theology of Creation session. So they'll have talks like Tom Ord recorded his talk, and Grace G. Sun Kim recorded her talk, and Jacob Erickson might be recording one. But then the 3 of them will be there. So you'll have questions. Everyone that watched it and is excited in advance. If you aren't a theology nerd, you can watch them, think about it, and then your questions actually shape what happens. But then live, you don't have to worry. They already recorded their shtick.
Yeah.
And it just goes into the actual fun part that you can't know what's going to happen, the actual conversation.
This is fantastic.
And there's one on AI and theology, and we have like OG wrote the first book on religion and AI. Noreen Hirschfield's going to be a part of it, and Ben Chica, and Michael Morelli. And so theirs are there. There's one on liberation theology in America. And so Leah Robinson and Adam Clark did lectures, and one's looking at like what we learned from the Latin American liberation theology, one from Black theology, and then they'll be there, and like Kelly Brown Douglas and Juan Floyd Thomas will be in there for the conversation.
Wow.
There's one on Bonhoeffer where like Jeff Pugh and Reggie Williams and Lori Brant Hall. I got her name wrong the first time she was on the podcast, and I consistently do it because I think what I'm thinking. Anyway, it's Hale with an E, not a double L. So they will record lectures, and then then like what people, the topics and stuff that are of interest drive the conversation. So I'm pretty pumped about this year. So you definitely, if you're already got your ticket, you want to check your email this week
Right.
today or tomorrow, and you'll get a link to watch the lectures. Obviously, you should watch
Wow.
them since you're in charge of
I will. I
that
will.
session. And also, there's a family, one of our regulars on TNT, who has a health crisis in their family. Not them, but they're going to be caretaking for a family member.
Okay.
And they had bought 3 tickets the early bird price. And so they said they'll sell them to a TNT person that doesn't have a ticket, which is like $200 cheaper than if
Oh,
you're buying them
wow.
last minute. So if you want to come to Theology Beer Camp
Yeah.
and you're a TNT person, then message me, and I'll set it up where you can get tickets significantly cheaper, and then you can go and yell at Bo while he's trying to facilitate, and they can all discover just how good Bo's hugs are. Like, he's one of my favorite huggers. I mean, we're friends. So I like hugs from friends, but
Yeah.
but I'll just say, as a big-bodied male, there's only a few people in your life that, like,
You,
you
you get full. I call it full coverage.
yeah, full coverage.
Yeah.
You're like, I believe
Yeah.
he was a tight end.
I can wrap. I can wrap around you.
Yeah, and Tim Burnett's going to be there this year,
Yes!
so
I can't wait.
like, this is one of those times where you got
he's a nerd, man.
You got-
that guy is so nerdy.
yeah, but y'all are both tall.
That's,
Like-
well, he's
like,
taller than I am. Yeah.
You're only what, 6'4"?
Yeah.
He's 6'7".
Wow.
But
He's a
I
big
just
one.
can't. I just love pictures with me between you two because
Yeah.
it's very slimming for me. They're like, look at Shrek.
Well, I am looking forward to it.
But
a lot.
the right during the hangout stuff. Oh,
Yeah.
we do have a soft serve machine for during the bottle share. We have soft serve machine to make like
Floats.
barrel aged stout floats. Bo,
I practiced with one. And
that's the kind of, you're committed. Your preparation here. That's what I'm talking about.
So we have a local creamery that I bought. It's like premium stuff, and I put it in a barrel aged stout.
Yeah,
It is delightful.
I know. Like like I don't put cream and stuff in my coffee because you don't want to.
No,
Like,
gross.
you're like, come on, let's just add in calories. But
Yeah.
but high gravity stouts, they're probably running at the same caloric density as the ice cream.
It's true. You're not diluting it at all.
Yeah, and it turns a 15% stout just into a 7% IPA.
Trip, you're so good at math.
I know.
Yeah.
I just was like, what's half of that?
Wow. This has been fun. Thanks for helping me think that through. The article, it's not just the article, it's the topic and the sentiment behind it has really gotten under my skin. And I thought, who do I know that has read the Bible but also experienced this progressive empathy culture? So I was looking forward to running it past you.
Ooh. Oh, Evan said rainbow sprinkles. I mean, that could happen, but and you got me drinking again. I don't know if someone saying and you got me drinking again, Evan. I'm not interested in leading people to stumble, which is a good time to remind everyone there is an AA group at Theology Beer Camp, because I always get these emails, right? Why do you put beer in the name? And I was like, I don't know. I started a podcast when I was 25. Like, sorry, it'd be bad for my SEO to change it.
It's a vestigial tale of when I was younger and sillier.
Yeah. But the month before camp, I don't drink the whole month just to get, so that way.
I do the opposite. I start
get ready.
Yeah. I have to build up my tolerance, bro.
Oh, I feel like a lower tolerance means you don't have as many calories, and then I don't have to like pee the whole time. Okay, here's another fun bit, though.
I'm listening.
Okay, so we have a really cool logo and stuff every year, and this year's like Monty Python, and a version that looks like the Monty Python Quest for the Holy Grail, but it's the Holy Stein because it's Luther's Stein. But on the Stein is a picture of a hop grenade, because where they take out the giant beast of the Cave of Agmar, which is the bunny. You know, the bunny with huge fangs.
Oh
And then they're
yeah,
like, let's
yeah.
get the holy hand grenade. Throw it at 3, not 2. You know, and so I got the Pilgrim, the guy that does the design stuff, to make a holy hop grenade. So it's a grenade, but it's a hop
Oh,
with a little halo on it
whoa,
for the
yeah.
pin. It looks so cool. And
Amazing.
we have like a specialty mug.
Yeah.
Uh, so there'll be 100 of them, and it is a 1-liter Stein, like a German Oktoberfest Stein, with
Oh man.
the hop grenade on it.
Count me in.
I know, because see, here's the thing. Like when you're
I'm a
on stage, Bo,
woo.
if you just have a
Yeah.
normal pint glass, like you're like, how am I supposed to theologize for an hour and a half with a pint?
No, it's
What kind of this is oppression.
No.
So I had deep empathy with everyone that's on stage stuck with
I
one
saw
pint
what
for
you
a
did
whole
there.
session.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but what if we have 1-liter glasses?
Oh my trip. See, you're an outside the pint thinker, and I like that.
I know. I didn't decide after the cigar festival to get knights to come fight yet. But I was like,
Oh
okay,
boy.
so
That's next level.
So of the 500 people at this cigar festival, not counting employees, how many females do you think are there?
Boy. If there was a dozen, I'd be impressed.
Oh, you're one off, Bo. One off.
Hey, I'm getting ready to head to the boys' room, but I wanted to run past. What do you think about? I've been working on a new sign off.
Okay.
You ready? So it's in a voice, and so I say it like this: "Till we meet in Valhalla, brother." What do you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
Ooh,
Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for your attention. We'll see you again soon.
Bye.
If y'all want the discount ticket, just email me and
Oh,
I'll figure it out.
okay.
And we'll post on our Substack things for people that want to join on Zoom and do a rapid fire of whatever comes up. All right. So something about Valhalla. Say again one more time. Come on.
Till we meet in Valhalla.